Why did some believe that Lord Kitchener was the reincarnation of King Arthur? By Dave Marsland of Cardiff Theosophical Society. The belief that Lord Kitchener, 1850 to 1916, was the reincarnation of King Arthur stems from a complex intersection of historical, cultural and psychological factors. Merlin's prediction that Arthur would live again played a significant role in fueling the belief that Lord Kitchener was the reincarnation of King Arthur. According to the ancient legend, King Arthur was not truly dead, but rather in a state of eternal sleep, waiting to be awakened if Britain needed him in a crisis. This notion resonated strongly with those who saw Lord Kitchener as a saviour figure during World War I, as he possessed striking similarities to the legendary king. Just as Arthur had united Britain in its time of need, Kitchener's leadership and unwavering determination to protect his country mirrored the qualities attributed to the mythical king. The idea that Merlin's prophecy could be realised in their lifetime captivated the imagination of many, leading them to believe that Kitchener was the long-awaited reincarnation of King Arthur. One notable contribution to the belief is the tribute paid in the Kitchener Memorial Appeal pamphlet, 5 Million Men, by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, published in 1916. He says, "He was in a very special sense a king man, one who was born to fashion and control the great affairs of mankind. He has left his mark deep upon 4 continents, upon Africa, North and South, upon Asia, upon Australasia, and finally upon Europe." On hearing of Lord Kitchener's death by drowning on June 15, 1916, Doyle wrote that Lord Kitchener had left behind the memory of something vast and elemental, coming suddenly and going strangely, a mighty spirit leaving great traces of its earthly passage. An article in the Boston Daily Globe in the US, published on October 8, 1916, argued that Kitchener's military prowess and leadership qualities mirrored those of the legendary King Arthur. It drew parallels between their roles in uniting their respective nations during times of crisis, and emphasised Kitchener's enigmatic persona, which it posited reflected the mystique surrounding King Arthur. Additionally, the Strand magazine in the UK also featured articles and editorials discussing the possibility of Kitchener being the reincarnation of King Arthur. These publications contributed to the widespread fascination with this theory and solidified its place in popular imagination. To understand why some believe that Lord Kitchener was the reincarnation of King Arthur, it is essential to delve into the historical context surrounding both figures. Lord Kitchener, also known as Horatio Kitchener, was a prominent British military leader during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. He gained fame for his leadership in the Sudan campaign and later served as the Secretary of State for War during World War I. Kitchener's strong authoritative presence and military prowess earned him a revered status in British society. The fact that his actions in the Boer War and the Sudan made him a war criminal in the modern view were not in the British public reckoning during the First World War. King Arthur, a legendary figure in British folklore and mythology, often depicted as a noble and virtuous king who defended Britain against Saxon invaders in the Dark Ages. Medieval tales of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table have been a source of inspiration and fascination for centuries, shaping the cultural identity of Britain. The belief in Lord Kitchener as the reincarnation of King Arthur can be partially attributed to the cultural influences of the time. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Britain experienced a resurgence of interest in its Dark Age and medieval past, fueled by the rise of the arts and crafts movement with its emphasis on authenticity and a return to simpler times, and the publication of influential literary works such as Alfred Lord Tennyson's epic poem Idylls of the King. There was also a revival of interest in the 15th century Thomas Malory's Le Morte d'Arthur, in addition to other medieval Arthurian narratives. These cultural movements romanticised the medieval period and elevated figures like King Arthur to the status of national heroes. Moreover, The pervasive sense of national identity and pride in Britain's imperial power during Kitchener's era contributed to the idealisation of heroic figures who embodied the values of strength, leadership and chivalry. Lord Kitchener's military exploits and his role in expanding the British Empire resonated with the prevailing imperialist sentiment, further enhancing his image as a modern-day embodiment of the legendary King Arthur. The belief in Lord Kitchener as the reincarnation of King Arthur also invites a psychological interpretation, particularly in the context of collective unconscious and archetypal symbolism. Swiss psychiatrist Carl Gustav Jung proposed the concept of the collective unconscious, suggesting that all humans share a reservoir of universal symbols and archetypes that shape our thoughts, behaviours and cultural expressions. In this framework, the archetypal figure of the hero, exemplified by King Arthur, represents a timeless symbol of courage, nobility and the quest for justice. When individuals or societies encounter figures who embody these archetypal qualities, there is a natural tendency to mythologise and elevate them to a mythical status. Lord Kitchener's larger-than-life persona, his military exploits and his role in shaping the course of history made him a compelling candidate for the projection of the King Arthur archetype. The belief in Lord Kitchener as the reincarnation of King Arthur also reflects the human inclination towards myth-making and the construction of larger-than-life narratives. Throughout history, societies have created myths and legend to make sense of extraordinary individuals and events, weaving narratives that transcend ordinary reality. In the case of Lord Kitchener, the confluence of his military achievements, the cultural fascination with medieval heroism, and the psychological need for archetypal symbols likely contributed to the mythologizing of his persona. Moreover, the role of media and propaganda cannot be overlooked in shaping public perception and contributing to the elevation of Lord Kitchener to a quasi-mythical status. During World War I, Kitchener's image was extensively used in recruitment posters and propaganda materials, portraying him as a symbol of strength and determination. This widespread exposure further entrenched the perception of Kitchener as a legendary figure, akin to the mythical King Arthur. The belief in Lord Kitchener as the reincarnation of King Arthur ultimately leaves a lasting legacy in the realms of historical interpretation and popular imagination. While historians and scholars may dismiss the notion as a product of cultural myth-making and psychological projection, the appeal of this belief underscores the enduring power of archetypal symbols and the human impulse to elevate charismatic individuals to mythical status. In conclusion, the belief that Lord Kitchener was the reincarnation of King Arthur emerges from a complex interplay of historical, cultural and psychological factors. By examining the historical context, cultural influences, psychological interpretations, and the role of myth-making, we gain a deeper understanding of how and why this belief took root in the public consciousness. While the notion may appear fanciful today, it offers valuable insights into the ways in which individuals and societies construct narratives and mythologies to make sense of their world.